Fill me in. What am I still missing about why someone would reach for something like this instead of the traditional sort of refresh the whole page kind of technology?
Sure. Well, Aurelia it's about building native-like experiences. So forget kind of the traditional web and think of the browser more as a virtual machine. And when you're targeting the browser with Aurelia, you're really building something that's akin to a desktop application, a richer native-like experience. Of course, with Aurelia, you can also target the phone. So you're building native-like mobile apps. And we can literally also deploy directly to the desktop as well across platforms. So it's all about building a richer user experience, one that meets or exceeds the expectations that an end user has for a native phone app or a native desktop app or these sorts of scenarios. So there's a lot more about usability, user experience. The state is kept in the browser the same way that if you had a desktop app, it would obviously keep certain state in memory, and it would deal with caching and all these sorts of things. So it's really about turning the browser or really anywhere that open web technology can run into this rich native-like app development platform.
Now, I've been claiming, hopefully correctly, that you were on the Angular team, and then you decided to sort of go off on your own and to make Aurelia. What was the motivation for that?
I have to be careful about how I talk about this because there were a lot of reasons. Just a bit about myself. I've always, not always, but for over 10 years now, I've been really interested in user experience and front-end architecture and frameworks and tools that enable building the user interface itself. And so I've done that on a bunch of different platforms, and I've always done that through open source. And I actually had a project called Durandal.js, which is very popular, still in wide use. That's a JavaScript framework for building single-page apps. And I was prepping for a kind of a next-generation version of it. And that's when the Angular team saw me and said, oh, hey, this looks a lot like what we want to do with our 2.0 direction. Would you come join us? And I said, yeah, I said yes. And in the beginning of that project, it looked very much like that was an accurate statement to say that they were going in the same direction that I was. But after a number of months passed, it became very, very clear that they had a lot of different internal motivations. They had a different set of experience, a different set of things internally that were guiding and controlling that project, which were at odds with my experience as a UI architect over the last 10 years, all the current customers I had of my previous open source, everything that I've been doing in this space for about a decade. And so I said, you know what, I don't think that we can keep working together. I need to go build the thing that I know that is what is needed. And so I left, and I basically returned to what I had been doing prior to working with them. I picked up right where I left off with what was at that point, it was an end-to-end prototype of this next generation framework. And I kind of rebranded it, renamed it, and really brought it to a production kind of quality point, or at least almost production quality alpha, really, at the time. This was last year, in February of last year. And we built up a team around it. We built a company around it, and we've gone through several versions, and it's doing amazing actually now. So, and people understand that, I think, that have kind of looked at what has happened with Angular from Angular 1 to Angular 2, and then looked at what we're doing. And for a lot of developers, they see, okay, I understand. This makes sense. So I could get into a lot more details. I just want to be careful because everybody asks me this question.
Yeah.
And there are some things that I can go into more detail on, but there are other things that it wouldn't really be appropriate at this point in time to even really discuss for legal reasons and other things.